Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this Vivid webinar, where we will be speaking about retiring multiple service management tools and the rapid deployment of microfocus SMAX. This is Martin, please. This is brought to you by the Vivid Service Management Special Interest Group and Tori Jones, which is the Principal Consultant for Service Management at the Greenlight Group. Myself, and you'll be hosted by myself, which is Chris Visagi. I work for EOH Application Management. I'm an ITOM product manager there, and we have helped the customer that we'll be speaking today, Martin Morello, about how they implemented Service Management X and the Ops Bridge inside the multi-choice environment. Just to set some background for Martin, he's a professional with 18 years of experience in the public and private sector and currently heading up the BSM stack. From a multi-choice perspective, how this project was initiated, multi-choice decided to embark on a new strategy which they called Future Fit. And this Future Fit strategy or project, part of the deliverables of that was a cloud-first strategy, and they specifically engaged with ourselves and asked us what would the best way or mechanism be to embark on this platform or this journey. We propose Service Management X because of all the next generation elements to it, and Martin will delve a bit more about that, as well as Operations Bridge, where they do TIP and event management and event correlation. Martin, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to quickly move to our slide pack. So we're going to be talking about how we managed to retire multiple service management tools with rapid deployment of microfocus SMAX. So we're going to take you through our user story, our journey, and share with you the wonderful story that we have. So just to start it off, this is just to give you an idea of what multi-choice looks like at a high level. We've got 24 plus divisions or multi-choice companies within the SMAX environment, and just by implementing SMAX, we've been able to improve our efficiency and savings by about 62%. So multi-choice is quite a big company. It's got 13.9 million subscribers, and it covers 50 countries across the African continent with just over 6,900 employees, and that's a $4 billion US company. So our deployment of the SMAX solution took about 4.5 months, and we are going to talk to you a little bit about our experience during that 4.5 months and post the deployment date. And previously, before we moved on to SMAX, we were on HPSM for quite a number of years. And when we moved to SMAX, the decision was based on all the new capabilities that we are going to get with the onboarding of SMAX. And from 14 capabilities that we had in HPSM, SMAX offered us a whole lot more, and that was one of the primary reasons why we decided that SMAX is a tool for us. And that enabled us to access a lot of things out of the box from SMAX, and we deployed our project in under 5 months. And prior to deployment, we looked at various models on how we could deploy this SMAX tool as fast as possible across this massive organization. And we decided to look at 2 approaches, and we'll be talking about those 2 approaches as we go through the slide. And just to give you an idea of all the other work that we still need to do on SMAX after deploying it, we've got work with 1,200 person hours that we still need to deliver. And that is purely coming from the demand that we've built up since the day that we deployed. Now, we're going to give you a before and after picture So talking about multiple service management tools, so we had quite a number of tools that are known out there that were used for a part of service management or service management in full. But our biggest service management tool, the base tool, was HPSM, and we attempted to consolidate all of these tools, and we decided that going through with SMAX would be the best option. And some of these tools have either been retired fully and others might be integrated while we work on the retirement process for those tools. And moving on, so the approaches that we were talking about earlier on in the deployment of SMAX were two, and we used the bi-model approach, where the first model that we used, or the mode that we used, was a more of a marathon mode, where we look at all the complex complex work that we need to do around SMAX and how long it would take, and we would assemble a team that would work on that. And how did we define complex? Is anything that has to do with integrating multiple systems, enabling custom flows inside of SMAX, and maybe opening up new functionality that we never had. So this actually helped us to separate whatever was going to take us a good couple of months from small deployments that are manageable and faster. And that would be mode 2 that we used for smaller deployments, where we're just taking things out of the box. We're not customizing any flow out of SMAX. We just add config and run for about 5 days through the development cycle or the customization cycle and put it out there for use. So these two models helped us to kind of facilitate that rapid deployment approach, and our customers were quite engaged throughout the process. While they're waiting for more complex integrations to be put in place, we were delivering bits and pieces every week, and that helped us to achieve quite a lot throughout our organization. Now, just to kind of give you a high-level project overview, so this is the type of approach that we have taken, the kind of achievements that we managed to reach with this approach. And basically, it's a wordy slide that will just tell you this and that about our approaches, but most of that we've summarized in the conversation about the bi-model approach that we used. However, one of the major challenges that we encountered as we're deploying this tool was more on the changing of culture, getting people to let go of what they were used to, and learning how to use a new tool and new functionality, and maybe in some instances letting go of some things that were not available in SMAX. So to try and manage expectation and change culture, we decided to set up a steer core, and this steer core was quite a mixed steer core, from very high level, executive level, right down to the administrators and supervisors who use SMAX on daily basis. And we benefited a lot out of this because as people got closer and closer to what we're trying to do and what the tool is capable of doing, and they understood our roadmap and the capabilities that we would unlock in the future, it helped us to build a group of change agents who were able to go back into the organization and evangelize how SMAX is going to change the way things work and so on, and the feedback into our project team. We're able to capture a lot of knowledge that we would have otherwise missed had we not set up such forums to get knowledge and intel from people across the organization. Now, moving on to some of the stuff that we have achieved with this whole rapid deployment of SMAX. Having deployed it to so many areas in the organization, we had a totally different approach to how we want to see our data and how we want to present it to our business. And we're going to talk a little bit about the architecture, and my colleague who's part of the panel is going to unpack that architecture with us so we understand why we decided to go that route. And that architecture also accounts for a lot of the success that we have. So this is just a view of how our SMAX data look. We have in-tool reporting, which is really awesome to work with, but we decided to pull SMAX data out of SMAX and into our reporting environment and kind of give that enterprise look and feel to all of our stakeholders. So this is one of those complex integrations that we had to do, but we'll talk a little bit more about it when we talk about the architecture. And just to also give you a view of the benefit that we got just after deploying SMAX, this is a view that shows all the other benefits from the auto remediation that we hooked up to SMAX, and the financial benefit that we achieved, the availability of the platform. And for us, availability of this platform moving from on-prem to cloud was quite a good number. We are actually benefiting from the whole cloud architecture that SMAX comes with. Moving on to the next one, and this is where we're going to really spend a little bit of time talking about the architecture that carries this whole SMAX environment for us. And with me, I've got Vuyani Zwane, who basically put this together, and I'm going to give him the floor to kind of talk a little bit about it and give you more detail.
Okay, so what you're looking at there is thanks, Martin. What you're looking at there is the referential architecture for multi-choice. It puts into context how we actually interface and integrate most of our applications, and how we monitor, how we eventually get to the reporting platform, which you would have seen about 2 slides ago. So obviously, it's broken up into different layers. You've got the comms layer, computing layer, systems, all the way up to reporting and dashboarding on the left-hand side. One of the, I think, key success factors that we included as part of this architecture was actually the automation and integration layer. Because as part of the implementation of SMAX, we also had to look at disparate systems that were not necessarily integrated into SMAX, but needed to be integrated into SMAX for the delivery of ESM services going forward. So we had HPSM, as mentioned before, and HPSM, as we mentioned before, was also decommissioned to allow for SMAX to come in. So let's start at the systems layer, if I can. Compute and comms is primarily a basic standard implementation. However, for the SMAX implementation, the difference here is that computing and comms layer, as part of one of the other strategies, was not a major factor for us. And that strategy was that we wanted to go cloud. So we're not necessarily interested in what comms layer would look like and what the computing layer would look like. In fact, we reduced our fleet, having gone the SMAX route, from 120 or so application servers to just maybe 6 or even 10 for that matter. So that reduced that level of administrative operation. And above that, you've got different applications, The classification of applications so far is the financial systems, customer management systems, collaboration systems, inventory, and clarity. Above that is where the enterprise service bus sits, which effectively is the blue area, and there's a couple of capabilities there: automation, process mapping, business activity monitoring, integration, transformation, rules engine, and orchestration. I would say about 3 of the key components that are being used from a bus perspective where SMAX is concerned is integration, transformation, rules engine, and the orchestration layer. And I'll touch on that when we speak about the monitoring layer that's on the right-hand side. Above that, we then surface all of the data that is being managed from a bus perspective into SMAX. Whether it is an event, whether it's an incident, anything that we get from underlying systems, we then push up into SMAX. SMAX will do the ESM, call it services, service desk, incident management, and the like. In addition to that, we will also, from the bus, surface that data into our reporting and dashboarding environment, which happens to be Power BI. On the right-hand side, we've got the monitoring capability. So from the monitoring capability, we've got a Splunk, which plays the role of log analytics, and APM, which is actually App Dynamics. That data is pushed from underlying applications into the service bus. Now, what used to happen previously is that monitoring tools and the ESM tools never really interfaced with each other. And by applying this architecture, we resolved a question of how do you auto-remediate certain events that occur in monitoring tools without the interface of a human being per se. And what would happen is App Dynamics will pick up an event that would have been baselined and threshold and push it into the enterprise service bus. Enterprise service bus will then transform or transpose that data into SMAX for the ability to then log that as an incident. But while it's logging it as an incident, it actually applies certain remedial factors that will remediate that particular event. Once it is remediated, the call is closed, but also we feed back into business via the Power BI reporting platform to say, we noticed certain events that occurred, and as a result, we resolve those events without you having to be affected from a service derivation point of view or degradation point of view. Behind log analytics and APM, call it our main monitoring tools, behind those are troubleshooting tools. Those troubleshooting tools include things like SCOM for Microsoft environment, OEM or Oracle Enterprise Manager for the Oracle environment, and so forth. So all of these actually interface into the enterprise service bus for the purposes of ensuring that whatever incident or whatever request that is then generated is made available to SMAX, and we don't lose the time to try and troubleshoot, the time to try and analyze what has happened, where it comes from, and the like. It is a machine primarily speaking to another machine. Yeah, I think that covers at a very high level the architecture for what we've implemented. What we also identified from a SMAX perspective is how SMAX then fits in within the, call it, corporate capabilities within the organization, and all of those things were determined and identified within other design documents to ensure that we don't duplicate certain capabilities and or functionalities that may already exist within the organization. But also what it helped us to do, it assisted us to ensure that when we do a decom of existing tools that may not necessarily fit our new requirements, that we can still provide the similar capabilities and more. So one of the things that were mentioned earlier is that through the bimodal implementation approach is we focused on the initial implementation being a like-for-like sort of implementation. So we were able to map all these capabilities that exist within existing tools and map those to SMAX. And that's how the number 14 came about, that we had 14 functionalities. But then now going into our phase 2, we've got another 13 or so capabilities that we're going to be initiating. Things like ideation and the like will come up in the next phase of our implementation. So that gives you a sense of what our reference architecture looks like, and maybe how, not maybe, but how we then implemented that reference architecture to incorporate the SMAX service management implementation.
Yeah. So SMAX is really at the center of all of our systems. So all information, incident information and request information really goes into our SMAX tool. And from there, we kick off necessary automations or communication back to the business and so on. So us having taken the approach from the bimodal approach, we're able to bring all the other components that are around the SMAX as a tool into fruition real quick. So this is our journey and how we got to where we are today. And basically, the next slide is just to show you some of the interesting things that we've done with SMAX. We did not just buy SMAX as a tool, but we bought that with Operations Bridge, which helps us to automate a lot of things in the background. And this slide over here just shows some of the items that we have automated and the benefit of that automation. You'll see that we've got SMAX resolve ticket in green, and 83% of all the events that we have received were coming from that. And that's the part that Vianney was talking about, where we automated the alerting of threshold breaches in some of our infrastructure that goes all the way into SMAX, and it kicks off a standard operating procedure that remediates that problem and then comes back to SMAX again and closes the core. And within 1 month, we've actually seen a benefit of 13,214 minutes saved just by implementing all of these flows in Operations Bridge. And yeah, that kind of wraps up our journey.
Thank you, Martin. That sounds very good and interesting. So we've got a couple of questions that's come in for you, Martin, if you would be willing to answer them. And if the rest of the audience, I forgot to just mention one slide. I've tried to do it in the text. You do have the ability to ask questions, and please ask questions if you've got any for Martin at this point in time. Martin, the one question for you is, and for you as well, Vianney possibly, what challenges did you experience from the technology, the process, and the people perspective with the deployment of SMAX?
Okay.
So from a process point of view, there wasn't much of a challenge other than that we already had the processes that speak to ITSM or ITIL already defined. So going as well into SMAX, we were really just mapping those capabilities from a process point of view into SMAX. So the processes weren't too much of a problem. The technology capability, or rather challenges, were with any new tool, I think you have some niggling issues. But before we get to those niggling issues, it was as we were defining the business process, the business requirements, we were finding that people would request a lot more capabilities out of the tool, which at the time, as part of our implementation approach, was not really part of the first phase. So we literally had to say, guys, please wait for phase 2. We will be able to deal with phase 2 in phase 2, all those additional technological capabilities and requirements that you're looking for. So the adoption phase as well was very good on our end and very quick, because in the 2 weeks that we had implemented during the warranty period, we really did not experience any, call it priority one sort of issues or errors within the solution, which meant that people were using the technology, but with additional training and the like, that would make sense. The people side of it is generally where you experience challenges. Now, I say this in jest because obviously I'm a techie as well, so I'm always going to blame people. And the reason for that is that we from an organization that was primarily used to using one particular piece of technology, and now you're starting to add a little bit more governance, a little bit more structure and control with SMAX, and all of a sudden all those bad habits needed to be curbed. But once again, I think the teams that were involved, I think the people that were involved, once they received adequate training, once they received adequate awareness of what the tool can actually do, they were able to adjust and adapt very quickly. The thing that I think from a multi-choice point of view and an EOH point of view that we experienced was around how do we manage in-tool reporting versus call it corporate aggregated reports, and those came with quite a bit of a challenge, but we managed, I think, utilizing the referential architecture that was presented. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, as Riani said, so we spend quite a lot of time talking to people, engaging them, trying to get them to understand the system a lot better. And in the initial stages, everybody wanted something that works, that would talk to their previous world. But at some point, they started giving quite a bit of input into the new world, how things should look, because they had gotten to a point where they understand other capabilities that the system has and that the system can offer. And that helped us to kind of build up a demand pipeline that talks to that 1,200 person hours that we still need to deliver on. So yeah, the people side was quite an interesting one.
Oh, good. Thank you, Martin and Vianney. So I see the questions are coming in quite thick and fast. So another one that we've got here is the question is to tell a little bit more about how you and your team enabled automation within SMAX and what the perceived and the business value on that was.
Okay, so basically automation within SMAX cuts across a number of technologies. So taking rules from a monitoring tool or breaches that occur in a monitoring tool, sending them through to SMAX via the enterprise service bus and using the operations bridge to auto-remediate. We've had to look at a couple of use cases, and our approach was looking at where we generate most of our incidents, and we identified where they were coming from and the components that were causing those incidents, and the manual steps that were followed to remediate those incidents, and we simply automated that in Operations Bridge. Now, once automated in Operations Bridge, an alert comes in, it logs a ticket inside of SMAX, and a remediation workflow gets kicked off on Operations Bridge. And depending on whether it fails or succeeds, comes back to SMAX, and it could, if it's successful, then the code is closed and operations are back to normal. Other than that, SMAX then follows the escalation process to various areas or affected areas of their business. I hope that answers the question.
Sure. And any automation that you've done in tool, like from a process automation perspective, where you actually automatically assign tasks in these type of elements?
Would you be talking about the ESM processes? So in other words, change management, incident request, those type of processes?
Indeed.
Okay. So yes, we have implemented all the major, call it ESM processes, like as I mentioned, ESM, incident management, problem management, change management. Quite a few of those processes have already been automated. And again, taking an approach that says, well, let's go like for like. We basically adopted what was already mapped out in the previous implementation into SMAX, and SMAX was actually able to cater for those capabilities going forward. So all your major ESM processes, we have automated all of them. The only thing that we have not implemented, and this is coming in now as a demand as we're going forward, it's things like your ITAM or your IT asset management processes, which we're currently busy with, your projects management processes, financial management. Those are the processes that we have not touched. And besides, I think from a multi-choice point of view, those processes already exist in other, or capabilities exist in other tools.
Great. Thanks, Vianney. So another question that's come up from Dinesh is, how long did it take how long did the move from Service Manager to SMAX take you?
It took us about 4.5 months. So from project inception right to actual go live to production. And at that point, we're not running the two systems together. It was a hard switch off on the HPSM side, and SMAX came up, and yeah, that was the timeline.
Thanks. Another one from Dinesh is, did you guys do any ticket migration from Service Manager? And if so, what were the challenges?
Okay, so we did not really bring all the data across from HPSM, and that's the decision that we had made, because all of the data is still accessible to us, and through our reporting environment, we're able to see 13 months worth of data, regardless of which system it's coming from. But we've had to import some of the SOPs that we had in SMAX and other in HPSM, pardon me, and other metadata, and I think that also made the process quite smooth for us.
Agreed. Another question, and this is from Tiago. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Have you implemented SMAX in your own infrastructure, on-prem or cloud, or in a third-party cloud?
Okay, our SMAX implementation is in the cloud. Yeah, it's in the EOH cloud, so that's a private cloud.
That's great. Thanks, Martin. Again, another question from Sharon. And this is a bit more about the application itself. Yeah. Any user feedback received on the mobility native application?
Sorry, say that again?
Any user feedback received from about the mobility native application? So the mobile application that we've got.
Oh, the mobile application. Yeah. No, not necessarily. Yeah. I think that's a good one. It's probably one of those that we need to sort of do a survey on. But we have not received any kind of feedback as yet, no.
Okay. Tiago again, did you lose any functionality from Service Manager to SMAX? And then there's another question on that. So maybe Martin and Vianney want to answer this together. So the first side of the question is, did you lose any functionality from Service Manager to SMAX? And then the second part is, do you miss any must-have feature from Service Manager?
Okay, so from our perspective, no, we do not miss anything from HP Service Manager. But in terms of features that might have been lost in HPSM, I don't think we really lost features. It's just how those features were packaged in SMAX and how they were enabled. There's a couple of things that are slightly different in SMAX than HPSM, and that's one of the things that we try to prevent losing features, because it means customer experience is compromised. So we try to bring as many features as possible into SMAX, or enable enhanced features in SMAX to cover for others that we couldn't bring from HPSM.
Okay, thanks. Another question we've got, this is from Jahant. In SMI Premium Suite, USMDB tool is also provided. I want to know whether this SMI element is providing USMDB integration. I think this is a more product question, Jahant, if you can maybe just comment on that. But I'll take this one, and maybe Tonya can as well. So yes, USMDB, or the CMS, is provided by SMAX on SMI Premium as an add-on or as part of the baseline, and you can do discovery, which is the add-on. But it's already implemented and already integrated as part of the SMAX platform. The discovery component is an additional licensing requirement where you license per discovery nodes, and then where you can do deep dive discovery as well as light discovery. Tonya, do you want to maybe add some elements there?
I think that seemed pretty complete to me, actually.
Great stuff. Giant, I hope that answers your question. The next question is from Derek. So Derek, the question from Derek is, did I hear correctly that it recently took 4 months to transfer from Service Anywhere to SMAX? So that's incorrect. It is from Service Manager to SMAX. But yes, it took 4 months. You want to expand on that a bit, Martin?
Yeah.
So
the 4 months is the complete project from initiation all the way to us going live, and that does not include the 14-day warranty period, which basically we needed about 3 to 5 days to provide warranty. Nothing broke. Yeah.
Great. I hope that answers your question, Derek. Another question from Dinesh. How heavily customized was SM, and how did you manage that in SMAX?
So yeah, true. SM was quite heavily customized, and we had to take, in some instances, a hard line to say, let's apply governance rules, because some of the customization went against what governance really asked for. So in some instances where we could cater for the customization outside of the tool, like whether it was a reporting requirement or it was a integration requirement, we would do that outside the tool and bring all of that back into the tool. But yes, SM was quite heavily customized, but we handled the very complex customizations, because things like business rules that were not necessarily out of the box from a SMAX point of view would be handled outside. Things like integration for underlying applications we also handled outside of the tool. So that helped to enhance, augment at least what the SMAX capabilities were and what they provided. Other than that, we tried as well to limit and hence we said, the implementation focused on a like-for-like sort of implementation. We tried to limit customization into SMAX as a first phase implementation. And I think if you take that approach, you won't run into challenges when you're trying to implement SMAX.
Thanks, Bihani. So Derek, I think your next question is more of a comment. As you stated, just curious, as we are currently transitioning to this. However, the overall time frame of transition concerns me a bit, as this will cause us to apply for an extension of our current service if applicable. So Derek, I'll take that question or comment. So the migration from Service Manager to SMAX, specifically a heavily customized Service Manager, takes a bit longer, because you have to redesign processes, as Bihani has mentioned previously, and you have to relook at your strategy, relook at your business rules, and understand what the idea behind the customization was and whether you still require that. A migration from SOAR to Service Manager or to SMAX is a different ballgame. There are different rules applicable to that. And your time frame for migration from Service Anywhere to SMAX, as far as I believe from product management, is quite a bit quicker, as it's not as heavily customizable as Service Manager was. Derek, I hope that answers your question or answers your comments.
I think also, if I may just add another 2 cents there, if your processes are defined, and as you said, it's mapped to whatever the organizational governance compliance is as per the strategy, it makes life a little bit easier to try and then not necessarily map a tool to process, but map or rather the other way around, and map your tool to the process that actually exists, and rather than try to augment your process to try and fit what the tool says. Luckily, we had already taken a sort of a standard approach to all of our processes, and those, whether we had a tool or not, are going to continue to operate and function. But obviously, with SMAX giving a much more enhanced user experience.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Vianney. And Derek, it's a pleasure. You were also the last person to make a comment or a question. I think we will give anyone else that would like to ask a question, please do so that we can, whilst we've got the panel ready, give a minute or so. Okay, doesn't look like there's another questions. Thank you, Martin and Vianney. Martin, if you can change the slide, please.
Yeah.
So in closing, just some announcements that we need to make from a Vivid perspective. Upcoming Vivid events. The next Vivid event is March the 6th, which is tomorrow, and it's about how to mind the gap with the value stream management and to optimize flow. You can see the dates. I hope you registered. The next one would be on the March the 12th, 2019, which is about robotic process automation based on micro-focus operations orchestration and UFT, the next frontier of business. That sounds like a very interesting one. I know I'm registered for that one. The next one is the March the 14th, which is titled Cyber Hygiene, Keeping Ahead of the Game with Micro-Focus. These are some of the webinars coming up. Be sure to register for these events, and please let your colleagues and customers know, and hope you can join us. Martin. The next one is about Micro-Focus Universe, which is being held in the Austria Center Vienna from the 26th to the 28th of March. Please register today and join Vivid at Micro-Focus Universe, where you will benefit from customer-driven content, which gives you real-world tips, tricks, and best practices, one-on-one meetings with Micro-Focus leaders and product managers, and educational workshops, private hosted dinner, and much more. Micro-Focus Universe is available to all roles, from business executives to technical end users and everyone in between. Hope to see you there.
Okay.
Next one is ADM Summit, which is in April from the 9th to the 11th. Registration is now open for this summit in Rosemont, Illinois, Chicago. Join Vivid there to learn how global competition is demanding innovative apps that will meet customer expectations. The Micro-Focus Application Delivery Management Product Management team will conduct compelling breakout sessions, share the latest product roadmaps, and demo the newest solutions. Attendees will have the opportunity to network with peers, partners, product experts, ADM executives. Hope you can join us. Then I would just like to thank you for joining this Vivid session. Thank you, Martin and Vianney, for sharing your practice, sharing some of the ideas you've got. And just before we finalize, we've got another question that popped up. Martin, is it fine if we can handle that quickly?
Yep.
It's from Michael. How many staff did it take to complete the project? Process people versus technical people.
Okay, so we had a total of 8 staff handling the entire project. And in terms, sorry,
Process versus technical.
I'm just confirming the numbers. Sorry. Yeah.
So we had 2 BAs.
Yeah.
Solutions architect, single solutions architect, 3 country guys.
Yeah. Okay.
And a
So
trainer.
yeah. So we had a trainer, 2 BAs, 3 solutions architects, and a project manager. So that's kind of our team composition, and that was the core team for the build stage. And when we went live, it was basically the same team plus a few more support staff who were engaging a lot more with the business and so on.
Thank you very much, Martin. Michael, I hope that answered your question. So I think whilst I'm finalizing the thank you, if there's another question that pops up, I will read that out. But Martin and Vianney, thank you for the time, and thank you for presenting your success story with us. And we hope all the best for you in your future journey. Then for the audience, thank you for attending this session for the Vivid Service Management Special Intergroup webinar. Please complete the short survey after the webinar ends, because we would like to have your feedback. And just a reminder that the on-demand recordings and the slide deck will be posted to the Vivid website. In the next couple of days, you will receive an email with those links. And Martin and Vianney, if you've got anything else to close, we've got no more questions popping up. So if you've got any closing comments that you would like to share.
Well, from my end, nothing else except say thank you for this opportunity to share our user story with everyone who joined us today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I think also, yeah, thanks for this opportunity to share. Obviously, there was a much, as the Martin has mentioned, there was a team behind all of us here, so they did, well, all the hard work really that gave us and gave us all the success that we have now. So thank you to them, and thanks to EOH for your support as well.
Thank you for the comments, and thank you, Vivid, from our side as well. Thank you very much for providing us the opportunity to present this customer and their success and listening to our story. I think that is it. I hope everyone has got a good evening. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.